Welcome back, everybody. The Bounty Puck, Chapter 11, The Heiress. It's the Bounty Puck show on Drop, and I have today my co-host always with me, James Hobson, James Creative on Instagram, and we have the nerd of the week, Doaly, in the house. Yeah, Doaly is he's also a Poster Posse member, so we got some Poster Posse people in and out. And I mentioned already that we're gonna have next week. I think we mentioned on the last podcast. Next week, we're gonna have Don Thompson, the founder of the Poster Posse, on as well, and some other cool guests. I just confirmed today that we're gonna talk for episode 6. I think it is. We're gonna talk with Matt Taylor. And Matt Ferguson is the week before. So many cool artist people that have lots about to say about this great show. And we're going to jump right into it. And this Chapter 11, The Heiress, is directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. And the episode length is 36 minutes. It's going down, people. Thoughts on that?
I really enjoyed it. I think we're episode 3 now. And they're keeping that consistent pace to it. I think season 1, we had a few episodes that felt like it slowed down the pace of the overall story and there wasn't enough information coming out in a sense like the main story arc. But this one so far, 1 to 3, I've been happy with every episode. I know like the previous episode, you could say it's a side quest, but I think there was still enough information and there was enough building of the world where like they've kept this consistent quality. And this one, I think like just delivers upon that even more so. Just, amount of like lore that you hear about.
Yeah, basically like
from this one.
Basically like the last seasons, like season 1, they had like very very similar to the episode arcs we could see, and I think that they kept it very well in pace. But what about the length? I mean, we had 55 minutes in the first one. I think 46 or 42 or something like that in the second one, and now we're down to 36. Even putting in the recap.
Yeah. Pace seemed fine. It was one of those things like I could probably done with probably even more of it. It didn't seem long. Like the pace of the whole show was really good. So at no point was I looking at the clock. When it's fun, it goes by really quickly.
Yeah, James, what about you? Did you want more?
Yeah, I I did want more a little bit. I thought last week's episode was a really really like perfect kind of length. This was really good, but I feel like that extra 10 minutes just gives you a little bit more time to kind of flesh out, and sometimes you don't even notice it. Like I was speaking to a friend today, and they were kind of like, it's kind of like negative space on an art piece. It's like important, but you don't realize it. It can be nothing. It can be people talking for a little bit longer just to kind of flesh out a relationship, which I think perhaps this episode needed a little bit of. I kind of felt like the ending was maybe a little bit rushed, but after watching a couple of times, I watched the ending again, like for a third time. I'm definitely growing towards it more. The first time I was a little bit like, I'm not sure. It seemed like an episode from one of the like the animated shows, but straight into live action. But I've come around a little bit more, and overall, yeah, I enjoyed it still. So.
Yeah, that's great to see. And overall, I have to say also, I really enjoyed this episode. It was my favorite episode from season 2 so far. And there are very different opinions on that, but I really enjoyed it. As I have to say, I think season 1, episode 3 was my favorite. So that was really something cool to see, that we are right in the thick of it, like having this world connect. We had it in the first episode of season 2 where Cobb Vanth and the book connected, and now we have the Clone Wars, Rebels, and all those shows coming into the world of the Mandalorian, and even broaden the horizon on the Mandalorian lore and what the show actually stands for. And I think that was really interesting to see. Let's go through the episode a little bit. This episode picks up right where the second left off, and the ship, pretty much still broken, travels toward Trask, this water planet. And I read that, and like I don't know if you're a big Apollo 13 fans or not, but this the scene of the re-entry of the ship is an homage to Bryce Dallas Howard's father, who did Apollo 13 and reimagined this scene. Basically, you find it on the internet. There's a Twitter. I think I saw it on Twitter. There was a Twitter video where they have like comparing shots to it, and it looks exactly like Apollo 13. So that's really, really cool to see. What were your thoughts on it, like coming to this planet? I think that was one of my favorite scenes. There's a lot of stuff happening in those first minutes. Doaly, how about you jump on it?
I really enjoyed it. It's just one of the things, like the thing that the show does really well is like it fills in the gaps what like the movies couldn't do, or like some of the shows couldn't do. You get this really rich tapestry of what the world really is. Like you get the attack crane. It's like that sort of world
that was
building
amazing.
that
Yeah,
it's amazing to see that kind of world really come to life. It's like, because like the movies are so geared towards that primary story, you never get these like, you know, small little vignettes of what's going on everywhere. So it's been great for that. So that initial, when they're landing and you see the world and they're reusing the AT-ATs as a crane, it was great. And then just that little comedy note of the way, you know, the ship, oh great, I'm gonna nail the landing, and then it just sinks directly into the ocean.
Yeah, it looked so fine, but I think it was like a very good joke on that matter that they made it land and then crash. I love that part.
Yeah. The engine line lets them down right at the end, and it just pops straight over.
Yeah. James, your thoughts on the first part?
Yeah, similar really. It's exactly that. I loved seeing those cranes. That was awesome. It's just like, yes, they're fleshing out the world, you know. These things that probably would have been used for war are now being reappropriated, and things like that just make everything way more believable, you know. It's like an actual working galaxy.
Yeah, I really love to see that the way the planet was crafted, and it looked very different from what we know from other Star Wars planets. It's not as hot, but and not as cold, obviously. But I think they had this gritty maritime feel to it, and that could also be seen in the Mon Calamari, because they had like this sweater, this thrift shop sweater.
That was really funny.
That they came up with, and I think that was really cool to see. And also loved like the comedic aspect, like he like shaking his hat and walking away.
Yeah, he just walks off. It's like, yeah, this will be easy job, and then it's like, no, I'm not picking this one up. It's gonna be a pain. Yeah.
But another little fun fact on that matter is that in that scene, the nostrils of the Moncal and stuff like that is puppeteered by the actress Jivanka, I forgot her name, Jivanka something, from Battlefront, who plays Iden Versio, and that she came on the set just for puppeteering, but she's not in the costume. But I think that was really interesting to hear about.
Oh, that's cool. I'm not sure if it's rumor or not, but I'm sure she's going to be in the show at some point.
Yeah, it could be happening.
Yeah. I'm sure it's like whether that was floated around on the internet, but I'm sure she's part of it at some point.
Yeah, because Iden Versio would fit in perfectly in the timeline as well. That would be a good call, linking video games into the series as well as
definitely.
The books.
I mean, we have still what's his name, Fallen Order guy, something with a K.
Cal,
exactly. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and Cal, he could be also in at some point. So who knows what that's gonna look like? But yeah, that would be interesting. But one guy we really, really want to see every time is, of course, his little puppy. He's here. Finally got here. I was talking about like the last couple of podcasts, and he looks amazing. He almost broke my toe. Ate him like little nuggies, but look at him. He's such a cute little guy. It's fantastic, fantastically crafted, I have to say, and he looks like the real deal. Like from the show, he looks. If he could walk on his own, it would be perfect. But. So
you got the perfect mascot for the show, and I just like it. You just slide him in.
Exactly, I can slide him in.
It's like he's using the force.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, well, there you go.
There you go. Force push. Okay.
He's going to force push you at one point, Tom.
Yeah, he will.
He's going to be doing the same.
Yeah, he will. But we're gonna see. But yeah, as I mentioned, Trask is very beautiful crafted. I love the environment there and the whole spaceport, how it looks, and we get right into that. That I really love the family moment of
Yeah.
the reuniting of the Frog Lady and the Frogman. I think I almost shed a tear watching it the first time because it was so good to see. And if you read the credits, it actually still says Frog Lady and Frogman, so it's like
Okay. I was
really
wondering
funny.
if they were given names or like a species or anything, but no,
No,
frog it
not
is
yet.
there.
No, not yet. I think there's like basically those other Star Wars characters like what's his face, Prune Face. Do you know Prune Face? I think he's on Jabba's barge and stuff. I think it's in episode 6. And yeah, Prune. This is his name because his face looks like a prune. So they
Yeah.
basically give names right out. And I think that's maybe it's an homage, but I don't know. But I would really I really love this scene.
Yeah,
To
I
say.
think it was something that was needed because you've got this character that which is the main component, the like the MacGuffin of the previous episode, and it's like you could just easily like, hey, see you later, and that's it, and there's no payoff to the danger you were in the previous one. So I think they really needed that to like, hey, there's a reason why we had that. There's definitely growing moments for Mando because of it. So it's nice that they had that reunion. So it just cements the whole thing that we're not just doing things for the sake of doing it. There's payoffs.
And
And there's reason why these characters matter to you.
yeah,
So I really
that's
enjoyed it. It's just like, yeah.
yeah, there's even more to it. Like later on, we're gonna touch upon that as well. And I think there's some really interesting bits in terms of one of our favorite topics, which is parenting, and that's gonna be fun. Actually, this time we have a parent on here, so that's good to have. But yeah, Baby Yoda is still very very hungry though, and but I think this topic changes. I like the idea where when we see the eggs almost like crashing when they landed, like falling down almost from the seat, and like the Frog Lady always worrying about it, and Baby Yoda's looking over, like basically seeing, oh, this is my chance maybe,
Yeah,
and
this is my happy meal. There you go.
yeah, but I think he realizes at some point that things are changing. James, how do you see that?
Um, I think we certainly, it's a theme that starts there and goes on throughout the episode, doesn't it? With the way that the child like sees these things not just as food but as like little living creatures. Yeah, I guess I don't have too much to say on that, but it's definitely a theme. Like we see in this episode, the biggest amount of growth between like for Mando and for the child as well. Like that was one, and the fact that was crammed into a short episode is that, I guess I hadn't really thought about that, is actually pretty impressive.
Yeah. They're moving on and to a cantina because obviously Baby Yoda wants to eat something, and then there's going to be clam chowder soup for all those Bostonians out there, and in it, the clam chowder soup comes with some alien fish species that is not really. It looks like an octopus being, and that's really interesting to see that. And also a very good parenting moment. Doaly, you want to touch upon that?
Yeah. It was the funny thing because it was like he gets the chowder and it's there and you see this big lump going there and there's something moving around and suddenly it becomes pretty much the squid, but it's like becomes a face hugger, which is hilarious because from the last episode, then we've got the eggs and now we got the face hugger. It's like this brings on that slight tint of horror, but he's just there like, stop playing with your food. While it's attacking him, and he just pulls out his knife and he just pricks it, and that's enough. I think that it's those nice little nods. It's like the thing that you would say to your kid that kind of brings it home for people. It is that it's a parenting relationship, but they're not spending too much time in it. Sense like they're not ramming it down your throat. It's these small little touches that show like he cares about him and he's looking over him, without it being like too, I guess, sentimental at times.
How's it with an actual kid, by the way? Are these moments very common?
Oh, yeah. There's always playing with your food. There's other kinds that you need to eat it and stop playing with it because it's there for fuel rather than a toy. There's toys for playing with and there's food to eat. But yeah, that's a constant thing with kids.
Okay, yeah.
And it gets everywhere. Yeah, I
Yeah.
very much relate to that. Yeah.
Okay, and yeah, then we see some species we're very familiar with. I mean, we had the Montcalm, which are familiar species in the Star Wars world. Admiral Akbar, obviously, and then we will see some quarrens later, who are basically from the same world as the Montcalm. So they come from Montcalamar, or Montcalamari. Is it the planet, or is it Montcalm
I
the planet?
think so. Yeah.
I'm not sure right now, but yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, yeah, so they come from the same planet and they live on this water planet together as well. And after the Empire exploited, obviously, the shipyards of Montcalm, which was like very famous, where most of the ships were built. And yeah, so I guess they have to find a new home. And I really like the way that they redistribute, coming back to the crane thing, that they redistribute the empire. I just came to my mind right now talking about it. Having the empire, like, let them build the ships because they're good shipbuilders, and then getting in, repurposing the crane of the empire, like giving back. And I think that was an interesting concept there, a little hidden thing.
I think like the AT-ATs or ATs, whichever you want to say.
Yeah.
I think they were basically based on cranes originally. I'm sure I've seen that in like some Ralph McQuarrie stuff. So it's cool that they've kind of like come back all the way around.
Yeah.
I think that's intentional, but that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, and then obviously in the cantina we meet those other quarrens who already seem a little bit sketchy, I'd say, and but they want to get the Mando where he needs to go to find more of his kind, and I think that's a very cool moment. But they already want money for it, so it's interesting to see. But then they set sail, which I really enjoyed. I love this ship and love this. It could be seen in the trailer. I loved it already there. What are your thoughts on water travel in this episode?
Yeah, it was fun to see because it's not something we've seen previous to this. It's always majorities like you said, it's snow, desert planets. So there's like, there's approximations of ships, but they're hovering over sand and so forth. So it was interesting to see something that we could like think more real worldly about. And it was like just a fisherman's voyage going out. And then because they're very much dressed in the same way as well, the big thick sweaters and so forth, it really brings it all to life. Like, they've really thought about the characters and what they would wear and everything else. One thing is like I was thinking about, it's like when they're first sitting in like the where call it a canteen or a cafe or and stuff, it's like, yeah, I'll tell you where it is, but I need money. And it's like he already probably had an idea. It's like, I'm gonna steal his best car.
Yeah.
So why he needed the additional money before he stole it? It was just like, okay, you're really greedy there.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the thing that I find hilarious is like Mando always like reaches into his cloak and then he's got some new currency to give to someone. And he's like constantly just pulling.
But it was the same currency he got in season 1, episode 1. He got it from Grief Kargar. That's how he paid him instead of Imperial credits.
Yeah, and it's like it was credits for the ship, but for this, it's like for a bribe, you can have this. So it's like it's just got it's like one of those long coats where you like open it up and there's like all lined with like products and stuff, and it's like that's what the inside of his cloak is. It's just.
Should hand over like DVDs and stuff. Like,
I've got I do bounties, but I also do this just to make ends meet.
You want to buy some DVDs?
That's always fun. He's always reaching in there, so that'll be a nice gag at some point. It's like Mary Poppins' bag.
Exactly, of currency. But also it was really interesting for me when you're looking at this maritime feel and this sailing and with the waves and everything and the weather, it felt like for me it felt like Deadliest Catch, the TV show. I don't know if you're familiar, guys, but like where they go out to the Bering Sea and like hunt for crabs, like king crabs or whatever, and it like really had this feeling to it. I really smirked there for a moment, so that was cool to see. But then everything turned bad pretty quick. I love this kind of another parenting moment here where the quarren basically tells the Mando, hey, take a closer look. Have you ever seen a mamacore eat before? And and then they're gonna go there and like basically like a zoo. And I think that was really interesting to have that kind of concept there and like show something different to the kid. And that was really cool. And then we have another great Star Wars moment It's another fish species, and I think it's the bad fish species here, or like water species. It's called water species. It's a trap moment when
Yeah,
the
yeah.
when the
And it's like,
quarren pushes them in, right? Doaly,
I wasn't expecting it. That was the thing.
nobody.
I
Yeah,
think
me
that
neither.
was what was done well. It was like the shock of the moment because he's like, oh, I expected, hey, maybe a fish pops out and stuff and surprises you, but I wasn't expecting that. So that was great. It was like, and there was no spoilers prior to that, so that was a real moment. And it's like you really feel danger for the child at that point when he just gets swallowed up, and just the way the hover pram closes up at the right moment.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then Mando, without like even thinking, just dived straight in.
Yeah,
And
that
he was
was
like,
yeah, exactly. That was a very cool moment, like seeing them getting in and like getting behind. And I love that he was really struggling. And I think there was
yeah,
also again this moment that was present in episode 2, or which I thought it was present in episode 2 when they when they were basically when he was basically by himself. He couldn't do that much, and then now this time he's again by himself, but not for long, luckily. And he was kind of like, he kind of felt, you could feel his vulnerability, I think, even though he has his armor and he is a Mandalorian and
yeah,
still can be attacked and still can be captured. He's not perfect. But then to the rescue, our 3 friends, and I think there were some really, really cool moments in there. And yeah, the new Mandos showed up, and these are some familiar faces if you have seen Clone Wars, at least one of them, Clone Wars and Rebels, and that's Bo-Katan. And I think the moments before she pops up, the fighting scene was exquisite. I think that was one of my favorite moments from the show. James, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was done perfectly. Like, they're already kind of like referencing themselves in the way that episode 3 of last season,
Yeah.
The other Mandalorians just come down from the sky, and that's such a handy trick to play, like, because they've got jetpacks, it's such a great visual thing to have because they come out of the frame into the frame really quickly. But I agree, like, the fighting styles were really cool. They were way more kind of aggressive, and it was almost like a dance. They had those things which they whipped out with the ropes and stuff.
Yeah, that was cool.
It was just like they were well practiced and well versed in being a team, as opposed to Mando, who's kind of like, he works by himself. He's more defensive, tough. I thought it was a really cool scene, really, really good.
Yeah, I loved the music, by the way, as well. Like, I think we mentioned it not enough, but the music is always great. And but I loved this kind of theme of danger they had. It had like this maritime feeling to it, like a shanty kind of feel in terms of the sound. And I think that was really interesting to see. And then also with the fighting, and I love if you have a Beskar armor, use your head, and the guy does it. Just simple headbutt, and the opponent is gone. I think.
Why does everyone go for their heads as well? Everyone tries to punch them in the head. It's like, look at that massive helmet that's like made of Beskar. That's not the best place to go.
You'd go for the soft areas. You'd go in the ribs and stuff like that, because pretty much everything's covered up. But
yeah,
it's like,
and the joints.
You get them every time, which is a nice like running gag. You kind of see, it's like, just knock him out with the helmet, and you get that perfect like Mando headbutt every time. But it's nice seeing like a couple of different like gadgets and so forth. It was like you had like the hidden blade, which
the retractable blade.
Yeah. You have that. It's like semi Assassin's Creed sort of thing. And then you had the other dude. He had like, it was like not a pistol per se, but he shot someone, and it was just with the gauntlet as well.
Yeah.
And everything else. So everyone just working really perfectly as a squad, and they like took everyone down within seconds. It's nice to see like what an organized group of Mandalorians can do.
Yeah, and that is a theme that we will see later on in the episode as well. And we were all still in shock, though. I mean, the Mandalorian was saved by, in this kind of same stuff we see from the flashbacks from season 1. We have the helping hand, another Mandalorian reaching again out for him and carry him up there. And I think that was really interesting to see that this comes again. And I think that comes full circle with the vulnerability that I mentioned earlier, and that is shown here. And I also love that when Bo-Katan basically says, this is you got a brother or something like that. Like she called him brother, and I think
Yeah.
that was a really important moment for the Mandalorian. He felt safe in that moment, and that was very cool to see. And James, how did you feel about that?
That whole scene is like the stuff that I really really love about the show. Is like even more so than the massive stuff that we see in the movies. It's just the time to kind of like really get into who these characters are, and the stuff about you know revealing that not all Mandalorians do take off their helmets, and switching it back, and everything we've learned has been from Mando's point of view.
Yeah,
But now this widens everything to the whole scale of Mandalore, and the fact that he's he's just part of this smaller cult. Even I
yeah, and
think
there was
that just opened up everything narratively really really well.
Yeah, that was also really interesting in terms of what we had before in the movies. We've seen Django take off his helmet, and we've seen it in Rebels and Clone Wars. People take or Mandalorians take off their helmet, and I think they brought it all like people were like, well, there are Mandalorians that take off their helmet. What's up with him? And I think that was a really interesting point in terms of storytelling and where he's come from. But also, you could see at the same time, he doesn't know what's going on. He is very confused, and that's like basically right away when he leaves. He's like basically that's not the way, and off he goes. And I think that was really showed his confusion and the way he's lost, and he still needs to be found, and he needs to find a different way in that. And Doaly, how did you see that moment?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like I haven't watched. I know of Rebels and I know of Clone Wars and stuff. So, but I'm not like so deeply rooted into it. I've of course heard the stuff all the time. So when we've got the Mandalorians in this, and it's like, okay, we always keep on a helmet. That's great. Okay, I took that as okay, that's the way it is. And then learning more about like the not Death Watch and the different splinter cells of it. It's like, okay, not everyone believes in such a regimented like viewpoint. So it's nice to see then that other side of it, which is via Bo-Katan. It's like, oh, great, you're a child of the Watch, so you've been brought up in this very strict regiment, and that's why you are the way you are. And to some degrees, he's got a blinkered view of the world because he's been brought up in this like splinter cell of the Mandalorian, and it's like, and then you understand like he very much at the same time is the child at that point of view because he's learning a lot as he goes along. He's seeing the wider world beyond like going out for bounties and so forth. So it's like you could get these like teachable moments for him every now and again, as like we've had him in previous episodes, and this is very much another one of those. It's like, and then the next scene kind of cements it in a sense. Is like he's walked off, but for them, he's still their brother from that point of view, and they come in and rescue him again. But yeah, it's nice to see. It's like it builds the lore once again, and I think the show's great at that. Like if you haven't been watching every bit of or reading every bit of like Star Wars lore or shows and so forth, this kind of bridges a lot of those gaps for you, and you want to find out more. It's like from this is like, okay, I want to find out more about Bo-Katan and stuff, and I want to hear about the owls. So let me go back and watch Rebels and let me watch Clone Wars because of this. So it's great.
I also loved it that the dude, I don't know, the Mandalorian dude, he basically says oh, he's one of those.
Yes.
how like how bad or not, I don't know, like in a not that bright way they are seen, the people that go along with this cult, and I think they call it, did they call it like a religious cult or a zealous cult or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, I was doing research on it because I was very interested about it. So when like if you go back to Clone Wars and Rebels, it's like there was a faction splintered off, and it's like it was Bo-Katan and her sister, and they had different ideologies. One was to have more of a pacifist sort of way, and the other one is no, we're warriors, we're going to continue being a warrior race, and that's where Death Watch was born.
Exactly.
And Bo-Katan originally was part of Death Watch, but she's like changed since then. But it's like that was the two different ideologies. And then they've seen since then, she's moved over, and there's been a lot of stories since then. But it's like she was part of that, so I think from her point of view, there's probably a little more understanding than anyone else that hasn't been part of it. But for children brought up in that world, it very much is this is the law. Hence, you're a child of the Watch.
Yeah, and bringing that back to Jon Favreau, because he played two different Wislas who are, I think the Paz Wisla is the character from episode 3, the big guy with the minigun.
Yeah.
And I forgot his other Wisla name that he played in Clone Wars. And that is he's like basically the founder of the Death Watch, and he's like the go-to guy there. And I think that's really interesting to see that he brought this kind of idea back, and that was very cool. But also, I was reminded a little bit of Game of Thrones in terms of the Night Watch.
Yeah, because the watch.
Yeah, and
yeah, that rung bells. And it's like, it's interesting because then you look at that point, you know, from the previous season when Mando gets saved. You know, when we're having, you know, the droids taking over the planet, and it's like, you think about that now, and it's like, okay, he was saved, but then he was saved by this cult. So is he really being saved in a sense? You know what I mean? It adds even more depth to what happened to him as a child. So it makes it more, you know, it just, once again, it's fleshing out that world, which is amazing to see.
It makes you see like the armorer. Does she have a name? The kind of like head.
Armorer?
Makes you
No,
kind of
it's just
see
the
her in
armorer,
a completely different way. It's like maybe she could end up being like a real problem for him.
Yes,
you know?
because it's like you've diverted from the path. And are you still an ally because of that? You know, because up until now, you've only really seen Mandalorians in the show on a, you know, singular basis. Even though they came together in that episode towards the end of, you know, towards the last series, up until then, they're still like fighting within the ranks. It's more of as one, every man for himself. And like I think the story from this one very much takeaway is we're stronger together, which is what, you know, what Bo-Katan has said a couple of times during it. And it's like, okay, you know, that's nice to see from that point of view.
But isn't it? I think that also is also mentioned from the Armorer, right? There are both sides to being stronger together. I think they want them to be the covert, what they're called. I think those underground societies, let's call it. And I think that it was really interesting to see that both have the same idea of things, but go about it a different way. And
that's true of like a lot of politics, basically. I think it's a really good way of showing it. We kind of want the same things, apart from maybe some kind of like extremist type views. But it's just two completely different ways of going about it.
Also love, by the way, that when the Mandalorians, the other ones, Bo-Katan and her crew, take off her helmet, and I love that how shocked he is, and he's like, Where did you get this armor? So we're back again to these armor moments, that how important this armor is. We can see it with Cobb Vanth, like where he asked him the same question basically. Give me this armor. You're not a Mandalorian. And I love how Bo-Katan reacts and explains it. This armor has been in like 3 generations of my family. Blah blah blah. What are you talking about? I'm the true heir. And that's
exactly. I was brought up on Mandalore. I was there doing the purge and everything else. Not a case of trying to justify I wear this because of this. He goes, this is who I am, and you don't even know who I am. It was like great for everyone that doesn't know who she was. That gave you that bit of, you know, backstory of who this person really is. But it made it in a way that was like justified rather than just like reading it to you.
Yeah, and after that scene, which was like a really great scene overall with all the details we just talked about, one of my favorite moments, just a single moment or a picture, came in when the Mando stands there and watches how the ship explodes, and this reminded me so much of the twin sunset Luke experiences in Episode 4, and I think that's really cool to see. How was it for you, James?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask that. Like. But on both watches, that's when I like kind of switched off after that scene.
Okay, there you go. Why?
I don't know. I knew you were going to ask about that. So I can't really share, Doaly.
Okay, it's very picturesque. Like you get this great sunset sort of sea scene, and the colors are amazing. It's like one of those pieces like that would make a great piece of art, whether you're into Mandalorian or not. It's just very picturesque. You know, the warm colors of the sun and so forth. So it's nice, like kind of like sets the scene as the sun's setting, and you think, okay, will we see them again or not? Which is like, and then you get the next scene after that. But yeah, as a bit of cinematography goes, it's beautiful. Maybe that's what it was, James. It was so like beautiful. You can kind of like zoned out with the beauty.
We're gonna.
could well be, honestly.
You gotta leave it at
I'm
that.
very susceptible to stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And after that scene, the Mando was basically still in his feelings. He was lost very much, and he was going about his way. I guess he wanted to go to the Frog Lady and say goodbye or something like that. And then he gets in an ambush again by the Quarren brother of or brothers, and we hear the theme again of the music in terms of like this shanty kind of like scary theme, and I love that the Quarren wants to kill him, and like he brought a lot of muscle with guns and all of that, so that was like really crazy to see, and then he calls Baby Yoda his pet. So that was really interesting scene. I want to come back to that later in the episode, but. Then comes in our friends to the rescue, the other Mandalorians, because they don't want to give up on their brother, and I love this the when Bo-Katan said like basically you killed my brother, and then she comes in and says, he didn't kill your brother, I did, and then pew pew pew, and a lot of cool shooting and stuff. That was really amazing to see. But Doaly, how did you feel about that moment?
That was great because I wasn't expecting him to show up again that soon.
Yeah.
Because you kind of had this like, you had that sunset, you had that, and you think, okay, I might see him at the end of the episode again, like they'll bring it back. But I wasn't expecting basically the next scene, and them to come back. And it was nice to see in a sense because sometimes it's like, okay, don't leave me waiting. I want to see more of these characters. Just give me everything. So they kind of gave you everything you wanted. You got plenty of those characters. So it's good. It's like, yeah. But then it's like from one point of view, I wasn't scared for Mando because it's like he's dealt with larger numbers than that and people that a lot more well equipped than those guys were. So I was just expecting the what are they called again, the willows or from his gauntlet,
the whistles, the silent whistles or something. Or something like that.
I was just expecting them to go.
But he doesn't have that many anymore.
And he'd carry on walking.
But he doesn't have that anymore. That's why the armor said in the season 1, like, yeah, be careful with those. And he shot a lot of those out already.
Yes, but it's one of those things like he has them up until it's like he doesn't, in a sense, it's one of those, they'll use it as part of the story. It's like, oh, you're out of them now. Great. But until then, he has them.
He had them in this season again because I thought he was going to be out of them forever. And then, like, was it the last episode he used them? I was like, oh, he got some more. Okay.
He had them at the beginning of the first episode because remember, like, the Fight Club?
Yeah, that's it.
He had them there. So it's like, he'll have them when we need them. It's one of those things, you don't want it to be a crutch of the story. Every time he's in trouble, they come out. But it's a different way of like, let's get rid of everyone and then just show that, hey, we're still the good guys just because, there's whether you say disrespect or whatever, you're still a Mandalorian, we're still Mandalorians, we're still going to help you.
Yeah.
And I got kind of like, that allowed them to like, okay, let's sit down and talk.
Yeah, that was really cool to see, and exactly that's what happened. They sat down on the Razor Crest, talked about what's going on. First in the cantina, obviously, and then they proposed a plan because the Mando needs to find a Jedi. And we hear again that we see that he doesn't know the world, which is also crazy to me in terms of he's never heard of the Jedi. So the religious cult he grew up in, they must really hate him. I mean, Death Watch has a problem with Jedis, and maybe that's why they are called wizards and they're like enemies and stuff like that. And I think that's interesting to see how that came about. And yeah, but they're explaining the whole exposition and of their plan and like their backstory. So that was there's a lot of stuff of that fills you in on who is who basically again, and gives you some more details on the characters that people that watched the animated shows have more an idea about. And again, the theme is mentioned here. Something is mentioned before, that Mandalore is a cursed planet.
Yes.
Nobody wants to go back there, and I think that was a really interesting to see. And what are your thoughts on that, Doaly?
It's like it's been said before, and it's mainly said by Mando. It's not said by Bo because she wants to like take over and reform, I guess, society there. But for him, it's like it's a cursed place. And is that because of his upbringing? Is it because I'm not sure exactly where his parents died. I'm not sure if they've said that, whether that was Mandalore, whether it wasn't. You know what I mean? So is that why it's cursed for him because his parents died there? Or he just has bad memories? Is it because the
I think you
Death Watch
mentioned.
was driven out.
I think he mentions that the Empire basically made this place or cursed this place in terms of
Yeah.
that they destroyed everything. I think
Yeah,
that's
it's like inhabitable, like they
yeah,
couldn't have it, so they made sure no one else could have it, that
exactly.
sort of thing.
Mhm.
So, but it's like from Bo's point of view, it's like she's grown up there, it's her home, so she wants it back. Whereas he doesn't have the same sort of leanings. He's probably been brought up in different coverts over time, so he's never had somewhere that he could actually call a home, I guess. It's why he doesn't have that sort of fondness for it. But it's interesting that it's like he's referring to it as a cursed place.
Yeah.
And I think that's possibly something that we'll go into in the future, why he feels that way. Is it because of his backstory? Is it because of his parents' death? Be interesting to see why that is.
And I think this is definitely going to change at some point, and I think that's very very interesting. How fast or how he like what persuades him to think differently in that matter. Also mentioned again, like the whole thing of family again, that Mandalorians are stronger together, and we have the family aspect. He mentions the clan of two, and so on and so on, and even as we mentioned, both sides have different views. They still have like family or like this kind of family values, and they are very important. But he kind of like says, I don't know about that. I want to go my own way, the Mandalorian, as a Din Djarin says that. And that is really interesting. But then he gets like struck on his honor again. Basically, he questions what the Jedi are, and then it's going to be, you need to help me by creed. So he tries to this kind of his way on the other Mandalorians, and I think that's interesting to see. James, do you think both Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian Din Djarin are going to change in their ways and come together in the middle?
I think it would be more. I think it'd be more like Din changing probably and going more towards the kind of Bo way of thinking and the ideals of family. At the moment, everything is done very regimentally for the creed. He changed his mind in the last episode when it was like, I'm sure you would do this. You have to. It's the Mandalorian way. And so he decided to help out with the Frog Lady. So if anything, I think he will be persuaded more towards the other way.
Okay. Then we're moving on to the Gazanti freighter. I showed a picture already of that a little earlier when they're sitting on there. By the way, this is what's her name? Sasha Banks. I think we didn't mention that earlier. The wrestler. And she's one of the Mandalorians. And I wonder, I think we didn't mention it earlier when she was in the beginning of the episode, seen there with her standing with the hood up.
Yes,
I was
thinking.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Doaly.
I was thinking Sith vibes straight away.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a small thing that we've seen in the previous trailers of the show prior to this. And it's like, okay, that's, whether it's to do with Order 66 or whatever. But it's like, definite Empire vibes. So it was a nice little like, oh no, she's actually a Mandalorian, because up until that point, we didn't know who that person was.
I was also wondering, when you look at the way she carries her hood and stuff like that, and when you compare it to Clone Wars in episode 7, season 7, I mean, where we can see, I think it was Bo-Katan. Yeah, Bo-Katan and her two friends, and they wear both a hood and have their helmet on. So I was wondering why they did that and why she wasn't wearing a helmet. But I think it would be too obvious then. But
yeah, I think even though they're not part of Death Watch and stuff, but I think because of the purge and everything else, they're not openly walking around as a Mandalorian when you don't need to. It's extra attention when you don't need it. So I think it adds. They are still secretive from that point of view. They're still possibly being hunted by the Empire to some degree. It makes sense after the fact.
Yeah.
But at the time, it's like it's a nice little misleading sort of thing.
Yeah.
Who's this character?
Exactly. And then moving on, we get the plan and we see Gazanti freighter that is an Imperial Hands, and that comes back to us because we saw this kind of freighter in The Prisoner in episode 6 of season 1, where they try to get to this prison ship and take him off. So that was also another nod back to that story, which was really cool. And then they also talked about stormtroopers and that they cannot hit the side of a bantha, which was really cool to hear about. And yeah, it's not getting old for me talking about bad shooting stormtroopers. Then one important aspect of parenting, I think the Mandalorian, he grew up also in terms of parenting, that he doesn't bring the child to anything he does, and he brings it to the frog lady and the frog man. And I think that was a very, very cool moment, also parenting wise, when he says, behave yourself and mind your manners. You know what I'm talking about. And I think that was a really cool callback to episode 2, and made, even though it's going to be hard to predict this in this sort of way, or if they did that, I wonder, when we look at all the comments that episode 2 got, and in terms of him eating the eggs and stuff like that, and then going back to that and making it better, basically, or calling out the Mando that he is a better parent. I think that was really interesting to see. What do you think, James?
I just wanted to hear what Doaly thought about eating the eggs.
Okay.
Like, what was
Doaly, what are your thoughts on eating the eggs?
Discussion last time. Yeah, it's one of those things. If say you went to a canteen and you ate an egg, you wouldn't think anything about it. The reason why I think it's hit everyone's heart so much is because you've got the mother right there. Yeah. So it's not like, hey, picking up a carton of 6 eggs from the supermarket. If you have the chicken next to the eggs when you're doing it, then you might feel like a little more sentimental and think, okay, I shouldn't eat these. These, all right, fair enough, they're not fertilized, but they will become children given, the natural progression of things. So I understand the reasoning why, and I understand both sides of it. It definitely hits harder when you see the parent buy the eggs and you understand the reasoning for it. But from the child's point of view, he's just hungry and he's a child. You know what I mean? It's hard to say it's a moral sort of thing. It's like, it's just hunger. You can't blame a child for that.
That's true. I'm not going to blame the child. I'm going to blame the Mando for being a bad parent.
Oh, yeah, but I'd blame the frog lady as well initially, because it's like, I know we're going back to the previous episode. It's like, here, this is your eggs, and you put them in the cargo hold. I'd be holding on to them like this.
Yeah.
And then letting them out my side. Or,
also
she's
true.
got the backpack as well. Put those on.
Yeah.
So I think it's there as a story moment, but then, in this scene that we get here where it's like, hey, behave yourself, and then you get that really beautiful shot of like, Baby Yoda looking through the canister of eggs, and you see the first egg hatching.
The tadpole.
So from that point of view, it's like, the child learns something. Here's life. Here's the creation of life.
Yeah, I think that was really interesting. I think that made like him see things in a different light. In the beginning, I think he was like, "Oh, that's some eggs," and then, "Oh shit, there's life in there." That was really interesting to see. Yeah, but I was wondering, by the way, since we talked about the eggs were not fertilized, blah 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 blah. But how fast did that happen, people? How long are we on this planet?
Well, you saw how they embraced.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe it was right there and then. Okay. Cut away.
So she probably walked off, and he had the eggs to himself and fertilized the eggs.
Okay.
Got busy with the eggs. So very fast turnaround from egg to tadpole. Very, very quick.
Yeah, that's true. And I think Baby Yoda, is very excited looking at it and like loving what is happening. And I think that's a really very, very cool moment in seeing your child grow up.
Yeah. No, there you go. Keep reading me shot. Yeah, I think it's great because up until now, anything that's small enough, the child has eaten pretty much. I think we can say. So it's the first thing is like, okay, this is life, and it might just, whether it becomes something later on or not. Yeah. Maybe we'll have a payoff to it further down the line. But at least it's like, okay, I shouldn't just eat anything. And like, I guess for people that were worried about it from the previous episode, it's something different for him now. Okay, he's learned from it. He's understood, what life is.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was nice. It's like brings it full circle.
So since now the Mandalorian has finally a babysitter, we can get back to the action again. I think that was really cool to see. I mean, first off, we have this very, very cool attack formation with the plane, like the freighter going up, and then the Mandos flying in on their jetpacks. How cool was that, people? How cool was that? And then turning right away into this very cool fighting scene on the outside of the freighter. I think that was amazing. How did you like it, James?
Yeah, that was good. I enjoyed the outside of the ship, like the battles on the outside of the ship more than on the inside. Just, I couldn't really tell you why, to be honest. It just everything was a lot clearer. Though I guess there was like less people to kind of like who's who's getting shot, blah blah blah. It was all kind of like there, very nice angles, and I just thought it was really enjoyable, really good fight.
Yeah, I liked the comedic aspect of it when basically when they killed most of the stormtroopers, and they by the way, they're called pirates in the beginning because it seems like on the outer rim there's a pirate problem, and then the I don't know who it was, I think Sasha Banks' character, she picked up the one stormtrooper and put him basically while they were what's going on, blah blah blah, and when we see the captain talking there on the bridge, and then she drops it right on them. That was a really cool moment.
Yes, you expect the windshield wipers to go like that and like trying to get him off. I can't see. Yeah, that's funny. I think that outside of the ship moment was definitely a lot of fun because you had the peril of being outside of the ship as it's going towards orbit, and because it's a new environment that we haven't seen necessarily a fight in. We've seen lots of corridor fights through all of Star Wars, so that's why it was like it was of greater interest, I think. Once we did get inside, it was nice being inside an Imperial ship again, which had that kind of it's that very industrial design, and because it was the dark hallways as well, it felt like home to a degree, because I don't think we've been in that specific kind of environment this season, or even because last season it was the white corridors and everything else. This was very much, this is the Empire, and it had that classic look about it with the white stormtroopers up against it. So it was great to see that again.
We also see the captain of the ship, which is who's played by Titus Welliver, who's been seen on Bosch, who was like a great detective on that. Love that show. And he was really amazing, even though it was like a little cameo he did. I don't know how he's connected to the Star Wars universe, because most of the time you are some way you're connected to it. And I think that was really cool to see. And then as you mentioned, the fight scenes inside the ship looked really, really cool. And I think I love the pop-out knife again that pops up. And I love the way the Mando is shown in this one. It seems like that he hangs back a lot in the fights. He doesn't know really what to do. He's not part of the inner circle, and I think that's shown really who he is. Like he doesn't trust them, and we have a lot of video game moments, like 4 Mandos killing like a whole squadron of troopers, and the way they fought in the control center, when they had like again a little comedic moment where they got blasted out of the ship, but we got them trapped. But where? In the control center. Say again. That was like really funny moment.
You realize like, oh God, great.
Yeah, and
like from a comedic point of view, that's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And but the Mando, there's a lot of stuff happening, and as I mentioned, he's not really sure, and then they come up. This goes throughout the whole ship fight, and then when they're after the control room, basically Bo-Katan mentions, "Hey, I'm gonna come up there. And then they have a really interesting moment for me, where they talk about the weapons and the meaning, and that they also want to take the ship. And then we have a Darth Vader moment in terms of she changing. I'm going to change the deal, and then or change her plan of what is happening. And the Mando's like, "Hey, I didn't sign up for this." And then we have the Boba Fett moment, basically saying, "Don't pray I'm going to change the deal any further." When Darth Vader talks to Boba Fett on changing the terms, and I think there was a really I don't know if it's not there. I haven't heard anybody speak about it, but I think I was like reminded right at that scene. And James, was it the same for you or?
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, I'm surprised I haven't heard more about that either, because definitely like that was what they were going for, 100%.
Yeah, and it was also interesting to see when she says, "This is the way," the way, the intonation,
flippant
and fake. Yeah, exactly. Doaly, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, no, it was like interesting. It was like she not to say like we're going to take we've got the weapons, but now we're going to take the ship as well. And I think they've drip fed him the information as and when he needs it, just to get him bought into the entire the project, in a sense, the mission. But it's like the way it was like, this is the way. It's like there's not like mutual respect there at the moment. So like, we are using you to a degree. Yes, you are part of like the wider clan, I guess. But this is what we're going to do. So you either go along with it, or we don't give you the information. There's no mutual respect there. That like, regardless of what, you'll get the information from me because we're both Mandalorians. So
Exactly.
it's nice to see that, and then we get the payoff later on. But at that point, it's just like, okay, well, let's see where this goes.
Yeah, and then look who's back. We got a bridge scene again, and the bridge scene shows us, first of all, the back, and we can hear his voice. So anybody who knows his voice knows who's back. And it's Giancarlo Esposito as a Grand Moff Gideon. And Moff Gideon is basically explaining, and we don't know what happened to him after episode 8, and like how he got off the planet and all of that. And also, I wondered, because like Moff Gideon has this nice little saying, basically, "Long live the Empire." And the Titus Welliver's character, the captain, repeats it and does basically everything for a certain cause. So we have kind of this moment of maybe this is the first steps of the First Order. And that's really interesting to see. What do you guys think about it? Is this going to be the First Order at some point? And where does the funding come from? That's one of my questions, because we see all those Renman troopers, like when we have Werner Herzog's character, and this time they're all like super white and super shiny.
Yeah. It's pristine, aren't they, compared to what we've seen them in the previous season, where they seem a little bit more rugged. Like the funding's been cut off, so they haven't been able to wash their armor and so forth. Whereas this pristine ship, pristine uniform, everyone's properly in full dress. So it's like, where is the money? I don't know. I'm just thinking whether it's like they've got then these are like the proper stormtroopers. The previous ones were like contractors, and they come and go. Whereas this is the A team of the Empire,
the 501st.
It's like just how big the entire universe is. There's no way you can police every quadrant of it. So there's obviously patches of the Empire that are still flourishing because they haven't been opposed as of yet. So I think there's still going to be these like splinter cells and stuff. And like you said, you got that whole thing of like for the Empire and so forth, and you get that very cultish sort of viewpoint. Okay, kill, and that sort of thing, which very much then is like, hey, isn't that what Death Watch is like? So you kind of see it from the other point of view.
Oh yeah,
and you can see how bad it can be to follow something so blindly. But it's interesting to see. I was like, and John Cito being there again, finally this season again. It's like, okay, there's our big bad of the season of the show, and it's great to have that very imposing figure back on screen again. And it's like, this is the reason why we're doing everything we are.
Yeah, and also looking after that, when the talk is over and the communication is out, the Titus Welliver's character, the captain, does a very kamikaze action move, and like he takes the ship down. He kills his own crew, takes the ship down, which was like really, he is dedicated. There's a cult again. There's this cult again, and I think that's really interesting.
Because he was like, first, save me. We was like, we're not going to do that because they've already taken the whole ship. It's pointless doing that now. So you know what to do. Yeah. And then like you see the co-pilots, especially the dude in the black. Yeah. Because he looked nervous the entire way through, like from the beginning when they started showing him. It was like when they first said that there's Mandalorians on the ship, he was like, he's sweating. And then at that point when he heard that, it's like, oh God, we're dead. Yeah. And you knew it. You saw that fear in his eyes. So I was like, I felt really bad for him at that point. Because I think from out, like in a sense, he's the audience member. We're seeing it through his eyes. And then it's just like bang, bang. And he was just dispatched straight away.
Yeah, and I think it's also comes back to the point of when we hear Moff Gideon talking about, there's another freighter attack. Another thing is going to get stolen. So it has happened before. So he definitely knows what's going to happen.
Yeah. It's like this isn't the first time, and that's why it's like, hey, if they've taken that, there's no way we'll be able to save it anyway, and we're not going to put any more men in jeopardy. So it's not worth it. So it'll be interesting to see, like, I guess when the season goes on, how much of a force the Mandalorians have built up, like resistance to what's going on, and how close has she gotten to getting that saber back is what she's after.
Yeah. And speaking of the saber, because they can't get fast enough to the bridge, they're pinned down in those halls we've seen, and a lot of stuff is happening. And the ship is going down. They need to move fast, but they cannot move fast enough to get there. And then Din Djarin has his moment. Basically, he shows he has this armor. He knows what's up. He has been, actually he has nothing to prove, but that's what the kind of person he is. He takes up he runs right into the fire of the guns. Everything bounces off him, which is really cool to see. But it's still like he can't stay on his feet because he's losing balance because of the shots, and then he throws out the grenades to save the day, basically. And this is the moment. This is the defining moment, I think, for the future episodes that we're gonna see in terms of Mandalorians there, and also for his character. His bravery is paid off, and the armor holds and is intact. And I think that's really interesting to see there. How did you feel about this moment, Doaly?
I think it's showing his courage to the rest of the team and his value. So it's not like he's just a component, or he's like, hey, he's saved us. He did a selfless act. So he's earned their respect from that point of view. I think you needed something to why from point A to point B you would start having this mutual respect for each other. And I think that was the moment for Bo, as he's like he saved himself, which is like, I think not necessarily anyone would have done the same, but it's like the ship's going down. He's been entrusted with the child and his mission. So whether it was for them or whether it's for himself and, keeping his mission alive.
Yeah. We're going to jump right.
Semi-sacrifice.
We're going to jump in a second on the bridge, then more on that. So,
yeah, but it's like just from that point of view, it's like he had to do something. If he stood back, his main mission of the child would have been, in peril anyway. So he had to take that step. I thought we were going to get the scene like from The Prisoner, when he kind of comes like pincer movement and takes out the entire droid army in that point, but we can get something like that. But this was a very different thing. This was like very self-sacrifice sort of thing. Let me just keep running down this hallway while getting shot, even though the armor's intact. Yeah. And whether you see the armor being a reflection of him, like it's intact through this process, throws the bombs in and he saves everyone.
Yeah, and that's a very Star Wars moment. I mean, sacrifice plays a lot of different roles throughout the Star Wars universe and movies that we've seen in the past. And James, do you think he also had more purpose than the child in this moment?
More purpose than the child?
Yeah, it's just the child. As Doaly just mentioned, like doing this
because of the child. In a sense, he had a greater.
Yeah. I think it was really well done in terms of how do you very quickly show a change in thought process. Self-sacrifice does that. He's been holding back. How do you very quickly show that? Yeah, I'm switching a little bit to what you guys are saying. By there was no other way really. There was just forward. That's all you could do in that. And that was another great thing I thought about having that kind of like vehicle. It was constant progress through each room to the front kind of thing. That was the only way he was going to get there. So it was the self-sacrifice moment.
Yeah, and sorry.
No, it's basically
okay. And yeah, looking at what I mentioned at the beginning when they entered the ship, the way he hang back there and did basically not do anything, or just did some little bit of shooting, but it progressed. So that was interesting to see.
Yeah, and it was like because he's not part of the squad, so they know how to fight together. So he was still shooting and stuff, but he wasn't part of that initial unit. And then when he does jump out, he is like to everyone, cover me. So he's relying on them, and they're reciprocating that point of view. So there was cover fire and so forth. So it showed that first bit of teamwork. He like in a sense shouted out an order, and they honored it, sort of thing. So that's like once again progression for that character. One thing that reminds me of that, and it's the only like thing that kind of like I'm gonna nitpick really about this episode. When they initially board the ship and then they said, hey, just take us to orbit. He goes, hey, we can't take you to orbit. Well, we can't. We go higher now because we're in the docking area.
Yeah.
And he goes, just go up. And then they go up and there's like, yeah, you could have done that. Like I expected them to have a few ships around them, like smaller ships.
Yeah.
Because they lifted off straight away, they're going to like sink those, sort of thing. There's a reason why there's like, there's the like from a marine point of view, they're like there's the corridors where you don't go fast because you'll knock other boats off
Yeah,
course and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
They should have had that element because it otherwise like there's no reason why you couldn't like
Hmm.
elevate the ship straight away because hey, there's no one around you, so what are you scared of? So they should at least have that little thing like a few little smaller ships got
Yeah, yeah,
blown
yeah.
out of
Got it.
course.
Yeah.
I think that was my only little nitpick that reminded me of it.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, that was my little detour.
All good, all good. That's totally fair, and I think that's a valid point. Because why mention it when it doesn't have any repercussions,
There's
right?
no payoff to it,
Yeah,
like why you couldn't do that. Like you should have showed why you couldn't do that at least. Because
exactly.
when the so I'm not going to go beyond the point we are, but yeah, that was just a little like thing that like not irritating me. It was like yeah, just show peril, show why you're not doing that, why you're obeying the rules because of
Yeah, exactly.
repercussions.
And then
It goes to say
Sorry.
like how much detail is in a lot of the other episodes, like that they have kind of put that in. I think that's probably why it stands out in this instance as well.
Yeah.
Usually they're very good about that, and it's like there's always cause and effect, and there's reasoning for it. And I think whether it was in the edit, they lost it in the edit because, like we've said, this is the shortest episode that we've had. Whether that just like that ended up on the cutting room floor, but I think whether you just had just a small element of it, I think you just needed that otherwise.
Yeah.
It shows reasoning.
Also, moving on the bridge, we find out that I mean, if you haven't watched the Rebels, of course, and and Clone Wars, Bo-Katan is looking for the Darksaber, and she knows about Moff Gideon, which is really interesting, and that's really cool to see. And I love the way how the captain is doing again another sacrifice for his family, by chewing this cool capsule that gives us electroshocks out or whatever it is, and it looked really cool in the show, and I really liked that part. That the suicide capsule felt also very World War II-ish, coming back with this imperial flavor there. I think that's really cool to see. And then the Mando and like the other Din Djarin, they saved the ship. Could get it like right above. There was also a cool scene where the ship almost like a touch and go situation. And Bo-Katan won't forget what the Mando did for them, and offers him a family in that regard. And I think that was really interesting to see that he is still he's still cautious, I'd say. By not giving up his mission and his like where he comes from, the watch basically, and I think that was really interesting to see. And then we finally get to know where his next mission is, and this is basically where we probably gonna have a big reveal in the next episode, and it's the city of Culloden and on the forest planet of Corvus, and there he's gonna find Ahsoka Tano, and I think. Everybody's excited about Ahsoka because she's my favorite character in Star Wars lore. She's one of my favorite Jedis, and yeah. What do you guys love about Ahsoka, Doaly?
I think it's because she kind of bridges that gap, because a lot of people if they've just gone by the prequels and the main trilogy and so forth, that gap that she bridges between Anakin and Darth Vader, it tells a lot. There's those years where what was he doing? He had his own apprentice and so forth. It really feeds more into that character and his progress to the dark side. So I think she's like, for people that don't know, it's like, oh wow, there was another apprentice. So I think that's why she's like, and people haven't watched the show, like she's this character of myth and legend. You've never seen her in live action.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, you might have seen her possibly in the prequels. Some people say it was her when they show Order 66 and this person of her race as a Jedi being shot, and you kind of see it. Whether that was her or not, we don't know. But yeah, seeing that, and I think she's kind of like that element of hope with doing everything else. She's that Jedi that's still alive. So yeah, and it's just because I think the internet being what it is, there's so much rumor and so forth, and she's the main character that everyone's wanted. I think whether you know her or not, everyone's excited to see her finally. Whether we'll see her in the next episode or not, everyone's very excited now.
Yeah, James.
I don't know if we'll see her in the next episode. I think it's probably going to go like a lot of the first series did. Like it leaves you thinking, yes, next episode is Ahsoka, and then it'll be another side mission.
It's going to be Boba Fett next episode.
No, I think we'll probably see Cara Dune for the first time this season in the next one, because I think the one after that is Dave Filoni, so that makes sense to have like
That's true.
Ahsoka in that. But I'm interested in how they're gonna do her visually. I think as an illustrated character, she's fantastic. The way she looks, like however you draw her, I love the way that character looks. In the last season, when they had the character of the same kind of race, it just, I don't know, that episode for me in The Prisoner, it didn't quite sit right. Like I was like, ooh,
like for Ahsoka?
It's
No,
not. Well, it's
No, it's a
similar
Twi'lek. It's a Twi'lek.
Got those.
it's a similar kind of like head bits.
Appendages.
Yes, the head appendages.
Yes.
Leku. They're called Leku.
Okay. The Lego.
Leku.
Yeah, but like hers, like the way it sits and the way it's more of a headdress in the way is. I think they will find a way, whether she wears a cloak or a hood or something, they'll find a way for it to work.
I mean, I think it looked pretty good on the illustrated mock-ups of Rosario Dawson playing her.
Yeah, I think it'll look like if they treat it more like headwear, even though it is organic in a sense because it kind of covers the entire head in the way it is. It could definitely work, and I think the character that she is, they'll put the work in. Hopefully that it looks great. But yeah, initially you think, how are they going to do that? Like we always think like, how do you bring these characters from book and from animation and so on and bring them to the real world? What would that look like? So it'd be interesting to see. I'm looking forward.
I think they did Bo really well. Like when you see those side by side, it's like they've got the essence of the character there.
Perfect.
Totally.
I mean,
and for people that are like know the show, it's like it's like Katie Sackhoff. She voiced her during the show.
Yeah, good.
She's playing it for the first time in live action, so that's a great little for people that know, it's a great Easter egg for them.
Yeah, totally forgot about to mention that. Yeah, but good thing that you got that. And at the end of the scene, we have again, "This is the way." But this time it is very sincere, and I think now they are on the same level, even though they have different views of things. But now they want the same thing, exactly the same thing, and they respect each other. And I think that's a very important moment for Din, who sees again, we have different views, but we still are on the same creed here. We are the same people, and we are a brother and sisterhood. And I think that's really interesting to see there. And what my next favorite moment was, I tried to capture it for a screenshot, but I couldn't. When he jumped badass off the ship, that was so good.
That is cool because it's just like you're not even waiting for it, are you? He jumps straight off, and it's like that hero moment, and it's like. And he even waits for a few more seconds, like free falling before the jetpack kicks in. So like that as a piece of art, just him, like that'd be perfect. So it kind of shows him like how fearless he is.
Yeah, exactly. And then
it feels a little bit more empowered, doesn't it? Like that whole thing is like he's taken on that little bit more emotionally.
Yeah, and confidence. It gave him confidence.
Confidence. Yeah. It's shown brilliantly in that action. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he obviously gets home. He needs to relieve the babysitters. That was really interesting to see. He's picking up Baby Yoda, and this little guy, he plays. We can see he plays with a tadpole, which was like really, really cute to see. And the concept art for this looks even cuter. I just pulled it up, and I think him. As we mentioned earlier, he values life now. It's different for him. It's he made a friend. It's not a food anymore for him. And it is interesting to see though when we look at it again, because like it's the child, it's his mission, But the Mando says at the end, and I want you to interpret it a little bit. What does it mean? He says when Baby Yoda just basically wants to hold on to the little tadpole to have it. And he says, what does he say? I have enough pets. Yeah. So what does it mean for you guys? James, what does it mean for you? Is he talking about Baby Yoda?
I guess so. I was the same on that. I've been trying to think that through. It's like, what kind of did he mean by that?
Yeah.
Was it just like more of a throwaway line? Is just Baby Yoda? Like, I guess it is. That's all I could sort of like come up with, really.
Yeah.
Because
from parenting point of view, I just saw it as like a throwaway comment. I didn't read anything further to it. I just thought it was a nice, like, that callback to the ambush where he gets called a pet.
Okay, yeah.
more
Yeah.
so than that,
Okay.
and it's just a little comedic moment. Because when the show does sentimental, they don't push it too much in a sense. They keep it quite
Yeah.
lighthearted and flippant, and they always have like the contrasting comedic element to go along with it. So I think that's what it really was. It's like, haha, I don't need any more pets. You're already a handful, which he is.
Yeah,
We all
yeah,
know
yeah.
he is. I think it's more that point of view because he has to look after him so much.
Yeah.
Not that he like in a sense values him in the same way you would a pet or so forth. No.
Yeah, and we're still not done yet. Then they're gonna go to the shipyard again, and the ship is ready to fly off again. It looks like crap. It's like a patchwork,
Yes.
and I think it's or it seems a lot like to me that it is resembles, or his ship resembles a lot of times what Din goes through, and the armor he wears have basically holes in it. Now it's patched up because he met some people of his race and of his people, and then I think that's really interesting to see that the ship is still not 100% as he is. He's confused, and I wonder where it's going to go next in that way. And then the final scene, I wondered why they put it in there. Why do you think they put this crazy starfish creature in there that attacks Baby Yoda, but he gets saved again by the Mando?
Yeah, and whether it's like it's the innocence of the child now, not just going, "Hey, this is food," and it's just like
Hey,
he's
this is a
seeing it,
friend. Yeah.
and it just probably reaffirming the Mandalorian's like protective nature over him. Like regardless of what's happened, I'm looking after him.
Yeah.
Possibly, that's that sort of like comfort moment of like, this is my mission. I'm looking after the child. I'm going to get him where he needs to go. Maybe it's just that. But for a moment, I was like, is he going to eat him? Is he going to get him? Which way around is it going to go?
I mean, he did eat him at the end.
He did, didn't he?
Yeah, the Mando
Yeah,
grabbed
he killed
him,
him.
and
Yeah.
like you see, like slurping up the little tentacle.
Yeah. Which is great because he's always hungry. So, he got a snack before they went into, deep space.
Yeah.
Interesting. And like, for me, it's like from the designer's point of view and seeing the inside of the ship and the outside, it just hurt. Because that ship, when it's in its normal state, it's beautiful. And to see that, broken up, having all like the ropes and everything, tying the whole thing together, just hurt even more. So I can't wait till he gets somewhere, whether it's going to be back to, his normal garage and so forth, where he gets it fixed up again. But I can't wait for it to be back in pristine condition.
Yeah, I wonder as well if because like the Mon Cal are famous for rebuilding ships and building ships. Why is it such a shit show?
It was, and he even said, "I gave you 1,000 credits."
Yeah,
And I get this.
exactly. 1,000 credits.
Just got the wrong guy. Like sometimes that happens.
Total shit show of what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be happy with that. And then he just like, here, sign off on it. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, God, whatever.
And then he complains about
I
it
would
in
have
the
thought
ship.
1,000 credits gets you more than that.
Yeah.
It's tied together with rope and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not sure else what was in there. It's like, how can you like? I was surprised they even got to like hyperspace.
Yeah, exactly. But things fall off in hyperspace.
Yeah,
so
that was a nice little funny thing. That
was good.
leaves that little
yeah.
one bit of scrap spinning.
Yeah, it's
goes
the
with
license
credits.
plate from Back to the Future.
Yeah, it's that sort of moment, isn't it? That's nice little. Yeah.
Maybe that's it. I haven't thought about it, but it could be. Feels familiar.
Yeah, I guess it's familiarity is like
Yeah.
it's fast, yeah, but it's falling apart still.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the episode. We talked a lot about 36 minutes. So there's a lot to go through. A lot of things happened. You already see that. And I want to recount the parenting moments here because parenting is one of our main issues. And yeah, playing with food. We talked about that with Doaly and what he does with his kids and then what it has. How is it with manners? Do you teach manners a lot?
Yes, please, thank you, all those sort of things. So you speak to the kid the way you want to speak to other people. So you have to just reflect that. So your manners to them, and they hopefully learn manners the same way.
Yeah. How about the zoo? Did you go?
The zoo is fun. Kids love the zoo because it's like, oh look, there's animals, and it's like for me, it's like, oh, for them, it's another kid until they know any better. So it's fun. So it is definitely like, don't stand too close. You'll enjoy it, but not too close. So that bit when it's like, that's enough, that's close enough.
Yeah.
Is very much that those small little things without like shoving down your throat is very much parenting moments.
James, do you think that that they have a closer bond now? He doesn't put Baby Yoda in danger anymore, and he saves him twice in this show.
Yeah, we're seeing progression now. Like even in in the course of one episode, he seems to be learning a little bit faster. But yeah, episode 1 was poor parenting.
Yeah.
So we saw him trying his best in episode 2, but he was still letting like the little one run away and go and eat like spidery eggs. This one, I think it was a little bit like, I will have to look after this guy now. He is a little shit.
He's a little handful.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things. The hopper pram that's been destroyed now.
Yeah,
the one that Quill made from season 1. So it's like he's gonna have to carry him pretty much everywhere he goes. So it'll be interesting to see whether we see backpack yoga, baby child.
Yeah,
that sort of like harking back to that. So that'll be interesting to see.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we talked about some armor moments, like when he was in the hall proving his bravery, basically, but also looking at the ship in a kind of armor way that he doesn't know what his feelings are. So that was really cool to see. We have a lot of story progression in this episode and backstory of things that we wanted to know, and I think that's really great to see. Also, very cool Mando tech moment. We had the different weapons we could see from the other Mandalorians. Also, the visor where they pulled up with the gas grenade there. That was really cool to see. A smoke bomb. This is more smoke bomb, yeah. And I think that was really cool to see. And my question was, how do you guys think about? My last question is, how do you guys think the Empire or this new kind of Empire gets funded? And also how they are, or how does it work together with the New Republic?
James?
Yeah.
In terms of funding, it's still quite a lawless society. It's still quite soon after, like the New Republic is still kind of like forming, and I think even like in some of the marketing, like they say like it's a lawless society. I think it's on like Disney Plus when you read it, like that's up there.
Yeah.
So I think there's still a lot of like underground stuff going on, and even with the first episode of the first season, you kind of see that there's still people holding that Empire signet or whatever it is like dear to their hearts, and they have money, so there's some underground stuff going on. There's Beskar being traded, there's stuff like big money still there, but it's just underground.
Okay, and how do you guys think the New Republic factors in a way? Are we going to see maybe help from the New Republic towards the new Empire?
I think you can see like, now with hindsight, you can see the building blocks probably where the Empire comes from, because of that, like the devotion that we've seen towards the Empire in this episode alone. You can see that more, that cultish sort of methodology. So it's like, I think we're still a long way from that in a sense. I don't think the show's there to show you how that was built, but you will see like, the first steps of what is going to become, the new, the new Empire, is it? Sorry.
The First Order.
First Order, sorry. You'll see like the building blocks of the First Order, and you may see a few like pivotal characters who are still quite young in this timeline currently. A bit of that, but yeah, it's still, for me, it's still like a Mandalorian story, whereas this is a nice little like not homage, but it's like it shows the world, it fleshes out the world a bit more, and you can see where it's going. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, before we go, I want you to rate the episode in terms from 0 to 10. We're going to start off with James, and then Doaly can finish out.
Well, after my first viewing, I would have said like a 6.5.
Okay.
And then I watched it. I know. And then I watched it again. And I was like, I don't know what I'm thinking. I would say 7.5. If it was 10 minutes longer, it would have gone up to 8. I don't love it as much as everyone else seems.
Okay,
like,
sure.
I love the thematic part of it. As a like episode of television, I don't think it's like. I think it's quite far from the best episodes that we've had. Like a complete disagreement with you, Tom, who said it's your favorite
so far from this season.
Okay, but yeah, for me, like it was very good. 7.5 is good, man. But and thematically it was great. It's growing the story brilliantly. But just as an episode of TV, yeah, 7.5.
Yeah. Doaly, before you answer, I would give it a 9 out of 10. Because I guess I'm a universe nerd, and I think that tied a lot of stuff together. I think that's what gave it to me. to see all that happening, all the stuff I hold dear come together. So yeah, Doaly, you're
Yeah, I'm gonna sit between you guys, so I'm gonna be on an 8.
okay.
I really enjoy when you get you get a lot more lore, and this is like very heavy. It's the most lore we've had in this season so far, so that was great to see. Like from James' point of view, if you stripped that away and you just based it on the other element, then I can see why it's like 7.5. Yeah, I could have definitely done with another 5 to 10 minutes of it. I think that would have just rounded off a few of the corners. We wouldn't have rushed certain scenes. We would have got more of that interaction between the Mandalorians and so forth. So for me, it's an 8. I think I've liked the episodes more. So I even liked the previous, episode 2 more than this one. I think we got a lot of more interesting interactions between like the frog lady, the droid, and everything else. And going back to Tatooine and so forth. I always enjoy it when we go back to Tatooine. So yeah, it's a solid 8. It's definitely like the season's going in the right direction. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be happening more in terms of the Darksaber, Moff Gideon, the Mando, and Bo-Katan coming back together. I think there's a lot of stuff happening, and probably Cara Dune and Apollo Creed. What's his name? Grief Karga. Grief Karga is
Carl Weathers.
Carl Weathers. Yeah, but I was going for
Yeah.
Grief Karga. I just had it slipped my mind for a sec. But yeah, they're gonna come back, so that's gonna be very interesting.
I think like if they go on these side questy tangent sort of episodes, which we have in most TV shows in a sense, you do always have these like breather episodes. So the next episode, the tension does feel higher because you've had like a low before it. That's fine, long as it still seems important in some way. Like it's like monster of the week sort of episodes. As long as like if it's throwaway and there's no nothing that has a knock-on effect, then you feel like it wasn't there for anything. But if it has a knock-on effect, or the character grows in some aspect, then that's great. I don't mind those slower episodes at points.
Yeah, and I think my idea maybe of the season finale is a big fight versus Moff Gideon. I think that's where it leads up to, and I wonder that like the families they build even with Grief Karga and Gina Carano's character. They're gonna get together and like do this mission in a way, and like fulfill that they're gonna be stronger together and get back what they want, all of them. And I think that's going to be very interesting to see how that is going to be translated. But do you guys have an outlook on what do you want to see? Let's ask this way.
I'm not thinking that like super far ahead, like what's going to be, because I don't think we're going to get to a point at the end of this season where it's like, hey, it kind of wraps everything up. It's going to leave us wanting more, like the previous season did. It depends how close we get to Moff Gideon. Will we get close enough? We'll definitely see him, and it'll be the final 2 episodes. We'll definitely see him. Whether it comes to the point that we beat him, I don't think that'll be like that's the kind of the end goal per se.
Okay, so
is it going to be, hey, we get closer to the Jedi? Is that going to be like the final thing?
But do you think that it's going to be season 5 material or more season 3 that we're going to see an ending?
I guess it's how much do you want to keep building this character up? Do you just want him to be the big bad of this season and then we move on to someone else in the next? I would because John Cito is such an amazing actor. I'd rather keep him for long term and have like bringing in like we had like the
by the way, Doaly,
the captain of this ship sort of thing. You brought in a very credible actor to play that part, so he had that presence on screen. So I could do with some like underlings and so forth being controlled by Moff Gideon in that same sort of way, and I'd be happy with that. But there's like I think I personally want to see more of the Jedi than I do of the Empire.
Yeah,
because I think that's the end goal rather than beating the Empire for Mando.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think the main storyline or thread, if we have one in this series, is to get to the Jedi, to get to its kind.
But it's the Mandalorian, not the Jedi.
No, but it's not.
But that's the end goal. Yeah. No, it's not called. I don't just want to see Jedi in every episode. I just mean like this is where he's taking the child. This is the if you're going to have a start point and end point of individual seasons, getting him from point A to point B, and point B is getting him back to or getting him to the Jedi. I see that's more of where this season's going, rather than
Okay.
completing the Moff Gideon.
So he
story.
doesn't have anything to do after that.
No,
Yeah.
I think what's going to happen personally, I think he'll get to a point where it's like he can't hand him over to anyone else, and he's going to become this clan of two will continue, and like whether you call the child the Mandalorian, because in theory he's a foundling, isn't he?
Yeah, that's what he says.
So
all the
maybe
time, yeah.
that's where it's gonna go. He doesn't get him to where he needs to go, like because there's no real Jedi at this point, in a sense, like there's no council of the Jedi, most of them are dead or fleeing and so forth.
But we have there should be Luke. There should be basically Leia.
Yes.
Maybe Kylo is born. I don't know, but
in a sense, like Luke could be at that point when he's rebuilding the Jedi. Will he get close enough or be able to hand this life over at this point? I think if you did that, we're pretty much done at season 2, aren't we?
Yeah.
So he's going to keep hold of him in some way or another. Maybe he's thinking he gets there and it's like, this isn't the right place for you. You're better off with me.
But
Or maybe the Jedi say, like, you've protected this founding so well so far. Can you keep
For a
he
bit
can be
longer,
part
yeah.
of your family, and like you are the clan of two, and they go on other adventures. And talking about Moff Gideon, that it could be another spin-off with like a Bo-Katan series.
yeah,
So
that was what I was
she's made
thinking.
a really good impression on people, and there seems to be a really good thread there between her getting the Darksaber. I think that could be a great series.
That
And
could-
Mando
that-
could even get into that at some point.
Yeah, that would warrant a series of its own because, it's a follow-on from Rebels and everything else. And that main story arc, everyone would love to see, I think.
And I was wondering as well, because at some point, sorry I have to say this, but Baby Yoda has to disappear at some point.
Does he? I don't know.
Come on.
I'm kind of happy that he wasn't...
Like when he goes back, like now meeting Ahsoka, talking about other Jedis, not appearing in Force Awakens, Last Jedi, or Rise of the
you mean in that
Skywalker.
sense goes away. Okay, yeah. Sorry. I don't know. He might, just because you're born in a sense with the Force doesn't mean you necessarily want to utilize it. He might be happy in a swamp somewhere, living his life. He's even more of a hermit than Luke became.
Eating white knob
But
spiders.
he could be like how old he could become. Say the recent trilogy, he could just be in his teens and not ready for it.
It
You
might
never
take
know.
him so long to age.
Yeah, because he's 50 already and he's still a baby.
So
You know what I mean? How many hundred of years is he
Maybe
going to have to age?
they're still gonna kick it, huh?
Something ridiculous.
Yeah,
They're
because
like,
if you think about it, he's 50 and still a baby. Come like Luke's, like say Luke's in his 20s or 30s at this point. So even if you go another 50 years from now, he's only going to be like what, still an adolescent. You know what I mean? He's
Maybe
not
like 10 years old in human years.
Yeah, that sort of thing. So it's like, okay, he's still got a lot of growing to do.
Okay.
And I'm sure they'd want a Yoda character, because when Yoda came back in The Last Jedi, that was like the best part of the film for me. I'm sure they probably want to set that up for like stuff that they do in the timeline in the
Next
future.
trilogy.
Yeah.
Of something. Yeah. You never know. It's like I think the character is like, we've seen people come from the animated series and come into live action and vice versa. You keep this character alive. You never know come 50 years from now, actually, where you'll end up utilizing him. So it'd be interesting to see. I think, where they take the Mandalorian, who knows? I'm sure they've got, this great story arc planned for another 2 to 3 seasons until we get Kenobi, I guess.
Exactly. All right. Thank you so much for coming on, Doaly. Thank you so much, James, for
Thank you for having me.
great co-host. And but by the way, quick question on your art: are you going to do something chapter based?
I've got a piece already for sign off for season 1. I drew it at the beginning of COVID.
Okay.
Like the first week of lockdown, I drew that piece. So that's currently in sign off for season 1. I will be doing a piece for season 2. I'm doing it with Bottleneck at the moment.
But no episodes, right? Like last year.
Oh yeah, no, I haven't got I love doing it last time around, like an episodic thing. But I'm going to concentrate on building like a piece per season now, and that's a lot more fun. So yeah, that's hopefully in the get signed off pretty soon before the end of season 2. Hopefully you'll see it.
Yeah. So maybe on our last episode we're gonna have a Doaly giveaway of a very cool piece.
Yeah, sure. Tell you one thing, it's made out of Beskar.
Oh my God, that sounds good.
Yeah,
Okay, people, we're gonna look forward to that, and thank you again, Doaly, for coming on, and we'll see you next way. This is the way, people.
This is the way.